Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Sean Seal, and this is the Holistic Nutrition Hub podcast, the show where we discuss all the important topics that will help you succeed in the nutrition industry. On this episode, I interview Shelley Ugyan, best-selling author and cognitive behavioral specialist, about how to lead a successful discovery call. Shelley helps nutritionists, health coaches, and online entrepreneurs transform their lives and their income by uniting soul and strategy to master absolute clarity, confidence, and success. In this interview, Shelley and I discuss why the discovery call is such a key part of running a successful nutrition business. We discuss the number one mistake that practitioners make during discovery calls. We also talk about how to use active listening to connect emotionally with your prospects, why you should avoid scripts for the initial consultation, how to deal with the money objection, and much more. This was a fantastic conversation with Shelley. She mentions lots of practical tips on how to improve your next discovery call and transform your approach to consulting. So with that, let's jump into the interview. Hey, Shelley, thanks for joining us on the show.
You bet, Sean. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great. So for the listeners who don't know about you yet, could you maybe tell your story and explain how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I come from a teaching background. I also come from a therapy background, and I've kind of molded that together to form a business. And I also have a business background. And so what I do today is I teach coaches and therapists how to break through to have six-figure years and beyond in their business using what I call the cognitive approach. And what that all means basically is it's about getting out of your own way so you can step into the mindset and develop the appropriate tools to sort of get to where you want to be in your business. And what I find is a lot of coaches and therapists, I work with both groups, struggle to sort of break out of this framework of a lower frequency set. And I help people move into a higher frequency to sort of attract what they're meant to attract in their business. And I'll share more about that later on the call as well.
Okay, great. So for today's interview, we're going to focus specifically on the discovery call or the initial consultation to really help practitioners get the right information from the client that they have either in front of them or on the phone so that they can, do the most of it and hopefully get a new client out of that call. So let's get started with something simple. Why is the initial consultation or the discovery call such an important part of the whole consultation process?
Yeah. So, I know most of your listeners, Sean, are health coaches. Am I correct? Wellness practitioners?
Yeah, a lot of holistic nutritionists and health coaches. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I know I went to health coaching school too, and I went through the program and I know what that's like and I know what it's about. And I know you come out with some really amazing skills, right? And you're so amped and ready to go and excited to get out there. I know I was. And then it's like, okay, so now what? Now I've got to get in front of people. I've got to share what I do. I don't want to sound salesy. I don't want to be pushy, but I know I have something great to offer. And most of the time I know the person in front of me needs what I have. And, so the problem that I have most coaches come to me saying is, look, I don't know how to get this across to people in a way that's not salesy, that's not pushy, yet still has them want to purchase my program because they probably need the solution that I have to provide. And the discovery call is the first place where you get to do that, right? That's where you're getting people on the phone. And you've probably learned, in school or at least in this sort of beginning, if you're a new coach and you're just getting online, that the idea is to get people on the phone so that you can actually share your services. So I think that there is a myth that the discovery call is about convincing someone to buy something. And so I want to just put that myth aside right now, and I'll tell you why. And this is a relief for most people. When I teach this is a relief because most coaches think, I don't know how to do that. You don't have to convince anyone of anything. You just have to be sure yourself, number one, that you can provide the service that you say you can. And number two, you need to really listen to what that person on the phone is saying so that you know what they need. And then they need to know that you understand what they need. And I think the first issue that most people come into contact with when they're on a discovery call is that they're not listening enough. is that we're so caught up in, did I say the right thing? What am I going to say? When am I going to say the right thing? What else do I have to say? That we miss the most important piece, which is listening to what the ideal client, I'm assuming they're my ideal client on the other end of the line, what they need and what they want. Now, you can't sell anything to the wrong person, and you can't sell the wrong thing to the right person. So you need to be showing up knowing that this is your ideal client. So that may be another call. But let's assume that this is the ideal client on the line and you're ready and you're talking to them. The first thing that I want to do is I want to make sure they know I'm here. I'm listening. Because truth be told, maybe I can't provide what they need. I don't even know yet, right? So my number one job is to listen and to make sure they know that they're being heard. And so when I do this coaching with people, I really teach to active listening skills and how you have people know that they're being heard. And this, in fact, may be the very first time they've been heard with this stuff. And they need that. Why? Because this is where you connect with someone. This is where the connection starts. If you don't listen, and I don't think we do this on purpose, right? But we're so caught up and maybe nervous, that we get wrapped up into our thing. But what happens is on the other side, people don't feel heard, and then there's a disconnect. And then it doesn't matter what you say, they're not going to be on board. So the first thing is just to relax and really listen. So what I hear you saying is you're really struggling with your weight, and it sounds like you've really done so many different things, and you must be really frustrated to be on this call with me yet again, having another conversation with another practitioner. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. Okay. So that's the starting point. I'll take a break there and just see if you want to add in, but I can keep going on that if you like.
No, it sounds like you need to show up prepared for that initial call, whether you know the person or not, at least prepared within yourself. So what do you usually recommend people do before the call? How can you prepare for a call like that?
Well, what I believe and what my experience has been is that business, and if you're a nutritionist, if you're a health coach, you're in business. So, business is a personal development program, and it's not enough to be, a millionaire at your craft is what I'd like to say, right? You need to also have that frequency is what I talk about, is you need to have that sense of confidence. You need to know, first of all, that you can provide what you're going to provide. You need to be confident in yourself about that. If you're not, you need to get the coaching to get there, right? And you need to feel solid, because if you don't feel that, then whatever you're bringing to the table, your ideal client's going to feel on the other end, right? If you don't believe your program's worth what you're asking for it, then they're going to feel that in the conversation. If you don't believe you can help them, they're going to feel that. If you don't believe that it's worth them putting some money aside and taking it off their credit card, they're going to feel that. So before we even start talking about, and this is why I don't actually give, I don't tell people exactly what to say on a sales call, quote unquote, because it's really about just being present for what's going on. And really knowing in yourself that you don't have any of these hindrances holding you back internally. Does that make sense? It's really about us actually, first of all, doing our own work so that we know that there's nowhere we're going off. Let me give you an example. If I show up on a discovery call and I'm not confident that my program is worth what I'm asking. Let's say I'm asking $2,000 and I feel a little bit timid about that. Then you can bet that when it comes to the money conversation, the person on the other end of the phone is going to probably have a problem with paying $2,000. That's the first thing I ask. If an issue comes up around money, or if an issue comes up around maybe you can't help me with this, whatever the objection is, I first need to look at, okay, what is it about me that's bringing this up? Where am I unsure? Where am I uncertain? So that's the first piece. And I think it's important to get that, because if we don't get that, then we're always looking to say the right thing. And sometimes it's just really looking internally at, am I out of alignment here? Where do I need to get confident in what I'm doing? So that's the first piece.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And even for me in a slightly different field as a personal trainer, starting my business about 2 years ago, I didn't have that confidence right off the bat. It took some time to, gather it and maybe get the validation from my clients that I was actually doing the right thing, that I was
Yes.
as valuable as I was saying that I was, to the
Yes.
point now where I am fully confident with who I am, what I do, and what I provide as a service.
Yes.
And so I can totally relate to
Great.
the confidence part. So once somebody's confident with the service that they provide themselves, they're ready to, go out and have that talk, whether it's the discovery call or maybe a consultation in person, sitting down at a cafe or something like this.
Mm-hmm.
What's a good way to start that conversation? How do you kind of break the ice to, do you jump right into it, or is there a way to kind of approach it a little more smoothly?
Well, absolutely. I mean, first of all, I never get on a discovery call with the intention of, are we just going to have a chat? So I want to put that out there. Whenever I have a discovery call, I have put, whether it's online or in person, this is a call. This is a 15-minute, 20-minute, whatever you need, complimentary call to determine if we're a fit to work together. And so that I can maybe assess where you're at and we can talk together to see if we might be a fit to work together. So I don't have any intention going on this call that this is just going to be a chat with someone. And sometimes I see that happening. So that's where you want to be really clear and upfront with your clients about why you're getting on the phone. That's the way you'll also attract your ideal clients, right? So first of all, making sure it's really clear why you're getting on. So then if you've already done that, when you show up on the call or in person, then you can dive into it without feeling strange about that. So I know we're here to decide, if this might be a fit to work together. I know you've shared a little bit about your struggle, but I really want to know more. I really want to understand what's going on. So that, I'm not even sure if this is a fit. So let's just talk about it and tell me more. And so, I'm going to just go into that and I'm going to ask a lot of questions and I'm going to listen. And I think the most important thing to remember, if you take away just one thing out of this call, is it's all about them. It is not about you. And what happens is, and I think it's because people get nervous, you start getting desperate when you're new sometimes. I know I was. And it starts coming back on, okay, what do I have to say the right thing here? So always turn it back to the client. If you don't know what to say next, just ask them more about themselves. Just ask them another question. It sounds like you've really been struggling with your weight. Tell me more about that. What have you tried to deal with that? What's worked? What hasn't worked? Wow, what has it affected in your life? How has it affected you? What would life be like without that problem? Wow, tell me more about that. Where would you like to see yourself in 5 years from now? You see where I'm going? It's all about them.
Yeah, that's great. So asking a lot of questions. Do you have some staple questions that you like to ask, or ways to dig a little bit deeper into the problems that they're experiencing?
I'll tell you what, I avoid scripts and I don't give my clients scripts. And in my program, I offer a program all around this. I give very detailed instruction, and most of it is by doing role playing, is to hear how I listen. Because why don't I give a script? Because you can't give a script when it's intuitive and it's about listening to that person, right? Yeah. Some of it is based on what I call the coach approach. And those are just standard questions like, tell me more about that. What have you tried in the past that's worked? What hasn't worked? What haven't you tried? That's probably what you've got to offer, what they haven't tried, right? And I really dig into how has it affected them and go deeper. Well, tell me more about that. Oh, it's affected your marriage. Well, tell me more about that. How would this be different? Wow. So you've been living 20 years feeling depleted in your marriage because of this weight problem. And what I'm getting to here is that, look, when we have struggled with something for a long time, it becomes normal. And those people that you're meeting have normalized this. It's become something that's just part of life. And so my intention, why I don't have a script, my intention is that when I'm talking to this person, the one thing I do not want to do is I do not want to get off of that call letting them go back to making this normal, because that would be really sad. right?
Yeah.
So whether or not they sign up with me is not the point. The point is, and I always ask permission for this, and I'll explain that in a moment, is that I'm not going to let someone walk away just as stuck as they were when they got on the call. The one thing I want to make clear is that this is affecting them. This is probably affecting them way more than they've been willing to admit until they talk to me. And I'm going to make it really, really clear, because they wouldn't be on the phone with me if it wasn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we sometimes have to remind people of that. And sometimes I need to ask permission. I'll just say, are you open to a little feedback on what you're sharing with me?
Yeah, and how do you deal with a situation where you're able to ask the right questions, get them to dig deep within themselves to kind of unearth what they've buried deep down inside, in terms of how it affects their life and how they could feel potentially if that problem was resolved. When you get to the point where I've had that situation happen a couple of times, I never try to do that, where the client or the prospect actually starts crying because we've actually touched on something that is really, really sensitive, and maybe they haven't thought about it or talked about it in so long. How do you deal with a situation like this?
So again, it's all about them. So I'm going to use what we call the active dialogue in CBT language. But, so the first part is active listening. So I heard you say, and I'm starting with that. And I keep going with that throughout the call. And then I'm going to always validate and empathize wherever I can. And so if someone was crying, I would say something like, I can see that this is really painful for you. I can imagine that it's not easy getting on this call with me. And I can imagine that you're really sick and tired of being here. I get it. What you've told me is it's affected this, it's affected that, it's affected this. Got it. You just want to hear them. You want to validate. You want to, again, be there in that moment. And then the next step from there is, so, this is the bridge. And another thing that I see many coaches doing is that they go into the money conversation too early. I am not interested in having a conversation about money until I have a commitment from the person on the phone that they are on board and willing to do something for themselves about this problem. If I don't have that commitment, there is no conversation about money. There's no conversation about a program or anything, right? So the first step is to really have them see what pain it's caused them, what's going on in their life. Why? Because I care about people. I do not want someone walking away still stuck. So the least I can do is, if I'm on the phone, I'm going to have them see that. And then I'll say, here's what I've heard you share. It sounds like you're very upset about it. Let me ask you something. How ready are you to do something about this? How ready are you to change this? Give me a percentage. Where are you at on that spectrum? I just ask people, where are you at? Are you wanting to change this?
Yeah.
And if someone's answer to me is, well, I don't know, it's like, well, are you open to some feedback around that? So what I'm hearing is you're telling me how devastated you are about this, how much it's affecting your life, yet do you see how there's an inconsistency with where you're at in terms of wanting to do something about it? And quite frankly, I'm very honest with people in a very loving way. But I will say, I cannot work with someone who's in that place. So are you open to a little coaching around this? I always ask permission. And if they say yes, I'll talk to them a little bit about it. I'll say, so, where do you notice this inconsistency in your life? How long have you had that? What would it take for you to step into your own power and take responsibility and do something about this so that you can be free?
So you're essentially asking them to provide you with the answer in a way.
Yeah. Because look, this is just as much an interview for you as a coach, right? As a practitioner, as it is for them. You don't want to take on a client who's not ready to show up and do it anyways. Yeah. Most people by this point are going to say, I'm 100% ready. I want it. That's great. Then you can move on to have another conversation, which may be about your program and money, and we could talk about that. But until you've got that confirmation, with anyone, you're going into any other conversation around programs or money too early. Because you both need to know that that's going on and where you're at,
Yeah. So once you've connected with a person, on a deep emotional level, and kind of offered them to give their opinion as of whether or not they were ready to move forward to do something about it. I can see that, like, you call this the bridge, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so once you go over that bridge and they've confirmed that they're ready to take their life in their own hands and move forward in a positive way and do something about it, how do you come in with whether it's the program or the money? What do you talk about next?
Well, yeah, great question. I mean, first of all, I would probably acknowledge them, especially if someone was crying with me on the phone. I'd say, I really want to acknowledge you, because it sounds like you're really finally ready, and that's 90% of this work, right?
Yes,
it's just you being in this place, right?
Yeah.
So that's great news. I'm really happy to hear that for you. And so we're on the call here today to decide if this is a fit to work together. And you've just told me what your needs are. So let me talk to you a little bit about what I do. And then we could talk. So you've already heard what their needs are. If you've been asking question, then, you might be taking down some notes. You're going to repeat back to them what you heard they need. Now, if you weren't listening and you don't have that, they may not believe that you can help them in your program, right? But if you are listening and you can repeat that back and give them, pieces of what they've shared, then you're going to be in a connection at that point.
Yeah.
And if this is the case, of course, if your program doesn't cover those things, then you're going to say, look, I'd love to refer you to someone who it does. But if it does serve this person, if you can help them, then you can say, this is exactly the work that I do. What I do is I target this. What you shared about this piece, here's what I do with clients, just like you who have been stuck here. And, from that place, you can explain what you do. And as other objections come up, again, it's all about them. Tell me more about that. Right. Tell me more about your fear around that. I really want to understand it. I don't rush past anything. If there's an objection, I want to dig in. I want to go deep. This is the other thing people do. They run from the objections. They try and skip over it. Yeah. No, go in there. Talk about it. Get it out in the open. If I feel there's a hesitation on the phone and I can tell, so I'll say, what's going on there? I feel, what is it that you're fearful about? What is it that's happening for you right now? Tell me about it. And look, I'll say to someone, look, I don't know if this is for you or not. I don't want to work with someone who it's not a fit for. So let's both decide together if it's a fit, but tell me what's coming up for you right now, and we'll just get into it.
That's really interesting. So the term overcoming objections is totally misplaced, because the last thing you want to do is overcome them. You want to dig into them to.
Exactly, yeah. Sean. I love it. That's a great point. It really is. It's like, yeah, well, we will. Yeah, right. We will overcome them if we actually address them. But how do we address them if we're just skipping over, right? We want to dig in. Again, I'm curious. I want to know. I care about this person. I'm here to listen. And if we go in with that mindset, that's why I don't have a script, because with a script, it's cold. You're not gonna connect, right? Mm-hmm. The intention is always to go deeper.
Yeah, and so while we're on that topic of objections, do you have maybe a top 3, 4 that you see recurring over and over again that are the main ones that people come up with, whether they're valid or not? And how do you work through them? Do you have maybe a signature move that they can teach everyone that's practical to dig into those issues?
I wish. That's funny. Well, look, so. Again, if you're listening to your client, that's the first step. But okay, so let's talk about some of the common ones. Yeah. Of course, we've got the money objection.
Yeah.
And the biggest mistake that people make with this is that they talk about the money too early. Sometimes the ideal client will say, "Well, I can't afford this program." And I'll say, "Whoa! I don't even know if this program's for you. I don't even know if we're fit to work together. Like, is it okay with you if we put the money talk aside? We can talk about that later, but can we just talk about what's going on for you? Would that be all right? Oh yeah. Okay. Okay, great. Yeah. I don't even want to talk. I don't worry about that. I'm here to be present for you right now. So, because remember, I want a confirmation that they're on board first. So that's the first thing about the money objection. The other thing is that, in terms of the money objection, I'm going to focus on that one first because I know that's a big one for most people.
Go for it.
You know, like in my mind, here's the other thing that I see people do is that coaches buy into the stories that people are telling them. You know, look, here's an example. Okay, let's say the ideal client is telling me I've got $25,000, dollars on my credit card. My line of credit's maxed out. They start buying into it. Oh, woo, you got $25,000? Yeah, that's a lot. You start buying into the story. If someone tells me that, here's my mindset. $25,000? Are you kidding me? You call that debt? When you get up to $250,000, come talk to me. That's nothing. You want to know what debt I was at when I started? You have no idea. So let me ask you something, honey. How willing are you to step into your power here? But this is after I've already got a relationship with this person, a connection. If I just got on the phone and went into that, how would that go over? Not very well.
No.
This is me and you can have this, right? Because we have a connection right now. We have we know each other. There's a warmth. When I say that to people I'm talking to, they laugh. They're there with me because I've already connected with them. So my point is, there is no right thing to say. I just want to really make this clear. You've got to connect with this person first, because you can't say the wrong thing to the right person at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. You've just got to show up and listen. But the other thing is that we don't want to take on their stuff, right? So if someone's got stuff around money, I don't own that, because in the back of my mind, here is something that I know. And on my billboard in front of me, in big letters, what I've got written is, my client has all the answers and they can do anything they want. And that is the truth. And I know that. So I know when I get on these calls that anything is possible. They're not stuck financially. They're not stuck with their problem, and they can do it and have it all. But if I don't believe that, if I start buying into their stories, then when the money objections come up, we get swallowed up, right? Yeah. So it's like I take a stand for my clients, and I'll ask permission again, and I'll say, "Are you available for some coaching around this?" How often has this money mindset gotten you caught? You've told me at the beginning you were 100% ready to do something, and now there's this issue. Tell me where this has gotten you stuck before. You can't be 100% on board, willing to do whatever it takes, and be stuck here. It doesn't work. What are you willing to do differently? Because it's up to you. Again, that will only work if I have a relationship with the person, because I've actually listened and been there for them on the call.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, it does, absolutely. So in a sense, you're connected there with them one-on-one, but at the same time, you have to keep a little part of your mind removed from all this, looking from the outside, and try to essentially show them that it's possible. It's kind of ask the right questions so that they see the way out of the predicament that they're in.
Yeah, and it's not the magic questions. The questions I know to ask are just by really listening to what I'm hearing, right? And being curious. Yeah. And if you're really there and present, and it's practice, right? I get on calls and just, I would think I would know all of this stuff. And then I'd get on a discovery call, when I first started coaching, and it was all about me, right? And I'd hang up and I'd think, oh my gosh, it was all about me, And I did that a few, and then I was like, okay, Shelley, and I had to write down, it's not about you. When I get on the phone, look at that. It's not about you, Shelley. So it takes time, and we got to be gentle, but I'm just sharing this in terms of, if you just relax and be present for the person, it'll work out. Don't get caught up in their stories. Don't get caught up in their stuff, and be willing to stand up and challenge them on something. See, I don't let people get away with stuff on these discovery calls. I'm willing to challenge them. I ask them permission, and then I'll challenge them on it, because I don't want to leave them stuck. And I'll say, look, whether you decide to go with my program or not, whether you decide to even do anything about this problem or not, that's up to you. But are you available for some coaching so you don't have to be in this same place anymore?
Yeah.
That's a gift.
That makes sense. In terms of, you said something that I want to just go back to a couple seconds ago. You talked about challenging them. When somebody comes to you, and I've asked in our community before we got on the call, what do you guys want to hear about? And something came up where it seemed like some of the clients that some of the practitioners were dealing with came to the call with the expectation to get some stuff for free out of it. because justifying it, saying, oh, but you're doing that, to help people get healthier. So why are you charging so much, or why are you charging at all? How would you react to that?
Yeah, there's a few things, and I mean, I go into this more in my program, and it's really around who you're being and who you're attracting, first of all. If I'm attracting a bunch of people on my discovery calls who are looking for a handout and don't actually want to do the work I need to look again at my personal development. And I had to do that. I had to hire a high-level coach who taught me and showed me how to get into high frequency and how to own my power and to show up. And so that's the first thing. Like if I see any pattern in my business, I have to first look at myself and go, okay, where am I out of alignment here? Why am I attracting this, on some level? Mm-hmm. But the other piece is for discovery calls, like I see a lot of people not telling people what this is. And so the client's confused. I'm offering a discovery call, who wants to jump on a call? Well, first of all, you want to keep it professional and business mindset. So, you want to let people know what this is about, what it's for, what your timeline is. I have 2 spaces at 2 p.m. this day and 5 p.m. that day. They will be 20 minutes long. This is what we will address. Please, I often have people fill out a questionnaire first. That keeps it really, really just focused. And it also gives me a sense of what the person wants, on that questionnaire, it might say, are you looking for a solution here? Are you finally ready to let go of your problem? Like, you don't have to do that, but that's the place that I am in, is that I really will assess who I'm going to do a discovery call with by what they put, because I'm only open and available for people who are really willing and wanting to change. You don't have to do that. You don't have to have an application, but you certainly let people know what your expectation is, what this is. Is this an assessment? Is this so that you can decide if you're going to work together? But I think a lot of people just throw it out there, and the ideal client doesn't really know what it is. So you need to make that clear.
So what you're talking about is essentially setting boundaries so that they know what it, like you said, what it's about, and that they don't have false expectations that they're just going to get, 2 weeks of recommendations for free and that kind of deal. So really setting the stage up front and saying, this is what it's about. This is what we're going to talk about. This is how much time we have, and then moving forward with that.
Exactly. Yeah. Keeping it professional, keeping it business. Own that, and people trust you when you do that. That's a really good practice.
Yeah, I've also find when you stand up for yourself and being, I guess, strict is not necessarily the right way to say it, but I'm kind of blanking here on the right word to use. But yeah, just be
firm, like firm
yeah, exactly,
kind of thing.
That's the word. Yeah, being firm and I mean being firm. It shows that you're confident, and so if the person on the other side of the line or the other side, even in an email, you can convey that firmness without being rude in any way, shape, or form.
Absolutely.
But just making sure they know what that's about, right? They're not going to get a whole bunch of stuff for free out of it.
Exactly. Yeah, you definitely want to be firm on your boundaries and clear with people. I mean, we owe that to the people that we're talking to. It's their time too. And I think we need to be really clear why they're getting on the phone. And, I do have good boundaries and I am strong, but I also do it with love. And I think that's a practice I'm still learning. We're all still learning. But to talk to people, especially when you're going to dig into their stuff and coach people, is that take a stand for them. Don't be afraid to do that. And then just do it with love, right? Do it with compassion. And that's sort of the practice that I walk.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So once we've gone through all those phases, we've connected with the person emotionally, we know what troubles them, stepped over that bridge and asked them if they were ready to do something about it. And then we've maybe tackled a couple objections that came up. How do you conclude the call? What's your, how do you end it so that you guys can move forward, hopefully together?
Well, I'm signing people up, and I'm signing them up right there on the call. There's, what I've noticed, especially I'm going to say with females, is that there's this whole, I need to think about it. Let me just like there's this big, I would say, habit pattern. Mm-hmm. Maybe not just females, but female energy, that feminine energy, where we don't take a stand for what we want and for what we're doing. And so I'll have that conversation with the person on the phone is like, whether this is a yes or a no, I'm going to encourage you to make that decision here. Why? Because I don't want you walking away still stuck in that in-between place, because that's a yucky place to be. Am I right? So tell me more about that. Let's talk about that. What is this about, this in between? You're 100% in, and now you have to think about it. Like, let's talk about it. And I'm going to do that in a way that's compassionate and present. But what I'm sharing here is that, my commitment is to this person. And I don't want them to have to walk away yet again, unsure and uncertain, because we live in that society and it's ridiculous. And I think that feminine energy needs to sort of take a stand when it comes to decision making. And so I'll share that. And I work with a lot of women. So I'll share that with women, and most of them get it. And they're like, yeah, you're right. So there are times when people say, well, I have to talk to my husband. It's a financial commitment, And then what I'll say is, great. So are you open to some coaching around that conversation? And I might even coach them, because what I've noticed that people will do is that they'll give their power away in that conversation, right? Mm. And so we'll talk about that. So what I'm sharing here is that my commitment is to have them 100% in if that's what they have told me they want. Because I am here to support what people want. I'm here to support their highest desire, their highest need. And so I'm not afraid to call people on that. And so it's like I very rarely hang up the phone without people signing up if that's what they've told me they want. Because why would I? I have had people say, I don't have the money, but I'm going to have it a month and I'm going to give it to you. And I've had that happen too. But I'm committed to being there and taking a stand for what people tell me they want. And that's my intention. And so the reason I don't offer scripts is because if that's the intention, that will come out in your being when you're on the phone with someone. And so when I end the call, it's like, great, I can't wait to work with you. Here's how we're going to proceed. I'm going to send you this right now. You can fill it out, get back to me within the hour. I'm going to be here to process it. I'm going to be sending you an email within 20 minutes. Like, you tell them the process of exactly what's going to happen. Yeah. Right? You tell them when the sessions start. It's all set out and clear on that call. And that's it.
Do you have a favorite process in terms of the practical side of things? What platform do you use for processing payments? Do you have a landing page that you send them to, or is it a PDF that you send them via email?
Yeah.
What's the process exactly?
Yeah, like it depends what I'm doing the discovery call on. Like, if it's a program, I've already sent them the link before the discovery call. So they're getting on the discovery call to see if it's a fit. So I'll just say, so click on that link. Fill it out right now. I want you to do that while we're on the phone so that I can answer any questions you have. The payment's going to go through to PayPal. Let's make sure everything goes through okay, because online, and I'll just be there with them as they do it. And so I use PayPal as a payment, but it's all hooked into the link. And the link's going to send them to the sales page, which is going to send them to the payment option, and they can just take care of it right there. And I'll share with someone, I want you to be free and complete with this by the end of our call, because that's what you told me you want. But again, remember, if I didn't have questions and I didn't get that, then I can't say that. Mm-hmm. So I really want to make sure the beginning of that call is focused around that piece.
Yeah, that was fantastic, Shelley. I think people are going to get a ton out of this in terms of really honing in on how to process, how to go forward with a discovery call or a consultation and get the most out of it. Before we part ways, I just had a couple quick rapid fire questions that I was hoping you could tackle.
Sure.
First of all, if you had to pick one book to offer to all your clients, what would it be?
God, that's a good one. One book. One book.
And maybe I can make your life a little bit easier by splitting that in half and having one book for your, health coaching clients, and then one book for your more business solopreneur.
I know that's clientele. The thing. I'm torn between my money mindset books and my health books.
So one of each. Let's do one of each.
One of each. Okay. Well, let's see. Let me think. I've got a lot of books on, books that are in terms of changing your thinking, right? So personal development books. And, I really believe as a business owner, if we're not focused on doing that ourselves, and, I work in CBT, I work with people to change their thoughts, which changes their beliefs, which changes their actions. And that's why I'm so clear on a sales call that this is all about beliefs. So one of the books that I love is called I Need Your Love, Is That True? And the reason why I recommend that is that a lot of people who are stuck in questioning things in themselves, it comes from old past stories from childhood. That's by Byron Katie. Any of the Byron Katie books that talk about changing your thinking are great, but I really love that book because it really talks about belief systems that actually play into our business and our marketing, believe it or not. So that's one of the books that I really love. I love the Fire Starter Sessions by Danielle Laporte. I like that because it's a really good way to get your goals out on paper. Okay. And I find that new coaches really struggle with that. And then I've got, The Millionaire Mindset is a really great book that I recommend in my business program. Anyone who's going to take it has to read that book and do all of the activities in it every day. Because if you don't do that, then you're not keeping up with a frequency that basically, money is an energy. Energy is frequency. And all of this stuff in business we start to develop is all about who we're being. So those are sort of the top three: a book on thinking, a book on money, and a book on personal development.
Fantastic. Second question, if you had two people that have had the most influence on you as a person, as an entrepreneur, people that you highly respect, who would you mention?
Okay, and let me give you one more book, actually, because this is more sort of present time, now that I'm thinking of it. You Are a Badass at Making Money. That's a great book by Jen Sincero, Sincero. You Are a Badass at Making Money. That's a great book, too.
And for the listeners, we'll list all those in the show notes.
Okay, perfect. So two people, well, I was just blessed enough to have a mentor who taught me and coached me in cognitive behavioral therapy, cognitive behavioral restructuring. So it's the process that I use when I teach coaches how to work with people with eating disorders, how to work with people who are stuck with emotional eating, and how to break through their own distorted thinking, the thoughts that are getting them stuck. And his name is James Stabler. He's amazing, amazing man and mentor of mine for 10 years. He mentored me around this stuff. I'm very, very blessed for him. Mm-hmm. I would also say my mentor, my teacher, Gina DeVee, who is, she's been my mentor in business. So I've actually had several business coaches, but, and all of them have been amazing depending where I was on the path. I've never not been with a coach. Never. In my opinion, if you want to grow further and faster, you've got to have someone who's at a higher frequency than you are. The only reason I made 6 figures in my business in 2 years was because I was working with powerhouses. And my experience is, unless you've already done that, you don't get to that point unless you're willing to invest and you're willing to show up and do that work. And, the program that I put together is based on all of that knowledge in one. It's the personal development as well as the money mindset, as well as the tools, because without all three, I don't believe we can move forward in that powerful way, right?
Yeah. So all coaches need coaches.
I think so.
Yeah, I agree with you. I fully agree with you. Shelley, how can people learn more about you, learn about your program and what you're offering for practitioners?
Awesome. Well, my website is www.shelleyyugyan.com. So it's SHELLEYUGYAN.com. You will find on there the link, and I think you'll have the link for a program that I've got on sale right now, and that's my business program.
Yeah, that'll be in the show notes as well.
Okay, so that's all there for you guys. So that's really everything that I've talked about today put in one. It's an online do-it-yourself program, but my website is there. I also do coaching for people who are coaches, health practitioners working with emotional eating or eating disorders. You can contact me on Facebook if you want to learn more about that. Again, my name is Shelley Ugyan, and I am found on Twitter and Instagram as well under the same name.
Fantastic. We'll link all that in the show notes. Shelley, thank you so much for being with us today.
You bet. Thanks. That was fun. Take care, Sean. Yeah. Great to talk with you.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. If you enjoyed the show, please support us by subscribing and leaving us an awesome review on iTunes. To access the show notes, go to holisticnutritionhub.ca/blog/002. That's it for today. Until next time, take care.